Constantinople has fallen. The Romans are scattered, preyed on by Latins, Bulgarians, and Turks. What happened next, and why did the Roman nation survive for another 2 centuries? The separatism of the Angelos era actually helped contribute to this, as during and after the Latin siege of Constantinople, a lot of local Roman lords created their own regional powers, straying from the authority of Constantinople, so they continued to function even after the capital fell. It is from these states that the Romans resisted and eventually revived their empire. So today, I wish to explore the foundations and early history of the 3 main successor states, Nicaea, Trebizond, and Epirus. The 10 years following the sack of Constantinople are crucial and complicated, which is why I'm dedicating a whole episode to them. 1214 is a nice section ending point, as by that point, Nicaea signed the Treaty of Nicaea, Epirus' first ruler was assassinated, and Trebizond lost Sinope, cutting them off from the race to retake Constantinople. Let's begin. While the Angeli were busy being hilariously incapable in Constantinople, the first of these states were beginning to form, the Empire of Trebizond. Alexios and David Komnenos, grandsons of Andronicus I, asked their aunt, Tamar of Georgia, to help them set up their own state, taking over Trebizond and Pontus by April 1204. Alexios I Komnenos, or Megas Komnenos as we will now call the Trapezuntine empires to distinguish them, was crowned and consolidated his Pontic holdings while his brother David looked west, starting his conquest of Paphlagonia, possibly hoping to retake Constantinople. This put them in conflict with the emerging state of Nicaea, whose Laskarid ruler also claimed to be emperor of all Romans. Constantinos Laskaris, after being crowned Vasiliev in the Hagia Sophia right before the fall of the city, fled with his brother Theodoros to Nicaea. With some difficulty, Theodoros managed to convince the Nicaeans and surrounding Romans to accept him as their lord, even though his brother was crowned and he was only son-in-law of Emperor Alexios III Angelos, who wasn't dead yet. The coward who abandoned Constantinople took refuge in Thrace and betrayed his other son-in-law, Alexios V Murtzouphlos, to the Latins, who murdered the Roman emperor as they now had a Latin emperor, Baldwin of Flanders. The Latins quickly got to work to invade other parts of Romania, taking over much of Thrace. Honestly, if you ask me, the Thracian Romans had it worst after 1204. They were assaulted not only by Latins, but also one of the cruelest Bulgarian Tsars ever to exist, Kaloyan the Roman Slayer. Thus was Thrace carved up by barbarians, and the displaced Romans tried to play one conqueror against another. They asked Kaloyan to fight the Latins. Kaloyan agreed, and crushed the Latins at the Battle of Adrianople in 1205, exactly a year after the sack. Baldwin was captured and turned into a skull cup. That's what I call karma. The Latins also conquered much of Greece despite the local Roman resistance and their defeat to Kaloyan, who continued his brutal expansion in Thrace. The Romans soon realized that even Latin rule was better than being Kaloyan's slaves, especially since the new Latin emperor, Henry, was a chill guy. In 1205, the kingdom of Thessaloniki was set up by Boniface of Montferrat, who then defeated the Peloponnesian magnate, Leon Skouros, pushing even further south into Greece. But all was not lost for the Romans of the West, for they soon had their own center of resistance as the Romans of Asia did, Epirus. Michael Angelos, or rather Komnenos Doukas as he liked to call himself, worked with Boniface, but he got tired of it and settled in Epirus, where he founded a new state. This is the beginning of the Komnenoi Doukas state of Epirus, which is known today as a despotate, although its rulers won't be called despots until the next video. Michael of Epirus may have led the Greek resistance to Boniface's advance into the Peloponnese, but it failed, and the Principality of Achaia was created. Skouros resisted for 3 years, but eventually committed suicide. Most of Greece was now under the Francocratia, while Michael expanded his Epirot state. The Latins initially had an easy time conquering Asia Minor, taking Bithynia from the nascent Empire of Nicaea. But if Kaloyan thought he was dooming the Roman cause, his constant war crimes against both Thracian Romans and Latins only paved way for the survival of the Anatolian Romans. Henry spent a lot of time restoring Latin control in Thrace, and giving Laskaris breathing room to consolidate his holdings and retake some of those Latin conquests. By 1205, he had subdued the independent Roman lords Savas Asidenos and Theodoros Mangefas. Sultan Caicos I, who had been previously deposed, came back to his throne with the help of his Roman father-in-law, Manuel Mavrozomis, who received Phrygian land for his support, but Laskaris defeated him and made Nicaea a truly Western Anatolian state. This would not be the last time Khosrau caused trouble for Laskaris. And fun fact, while Laskaris was Alexios III's son-in-law, Khosrau was probably Alexios' spiritual son, as he was probably baptized during his exile in Constantinople. It is precisely their link, Alexios III, which would cause the penultimate conflict between Nicaea and Rome at the legendary Battle of Antioch on the Meander. But we'll get there. For now, the only major Roman rival of Laskaris in Asia was David of Trebizond, who advanced far into Paphlagonia and occupied Nicaea. Laskaris was displeased and drove the Trebizontines out. From then on, David not only subjected himself to the Latins to fight against Nicaea, while Laskaris encouraged the Turks to attack Trebizond in 1206, and he stopped David's westward advance at Heraclea Pontica. The division of the two Roman states in Asia made the Turkish conquest of Anatolia much easier. Khosrau took the vital port city of Attaleia from Nicaea in 1207, making Rome a naval power again. While Nicaea and Trebizond skirmished in the east, we will look at the west, where Katalian, on the point of capturing Thessaloniki, died suddenly after terrorizing the Balkans for years. Some say he was struck down by Saint Demetrios, but we'll never know. Henry must have felt stupid, because he just offered Laskaris Kyzikos and Nicomedia for a truce, so he could focus on Kallian. But Epirus must have been thrilled at Bulgaria's misfortune. Michael started leading more campaigns. Later this year, he defeated a group of Latins coming from Italy to reinforce Constantinople, and may have also tried to help Scuro's resistance in Greece. His rhetoric was intensely anti-Latin, but like David of Trebizond, he also pretended to bow to the Latins, negotiating with the Pope and other Latin powers. But he had no intention of actually keeping his promises to them. In 1208, Laskaris felt confident enough to assume the title of emperor. He made Michael of Torianos the Patriarch of Constantinople and Nicaea, who then crowned him emperor of the Romans like Alexios Megas Komnenos. Most Romans of Asia Minor recognized Laskaris as their sovereign, and Nicaea menaced the Paphlagonian conquests of David so much that he had to ask Henry to come to Asia. This relieved David for now, but Trebizontine power in western Anatolia continued to decrease, and David disappeared. We used to think David was slain at the siege of Sinope 1214, but newer research concludes that he died on Mount Athos in 1212, most possibly exiled by Alexios for getting too ambitious in the west, or sucking up too much to the Latins around this time. This was good news for Laskaris, who then seized all of David's conquests up to Sinope before 1214, but this worried the Turks. By 1209, Michael of Epirus was now on friendly terms with the Latins, a vassal of Constantinople and Thessaloniki, so he was able to ransom Alexios III from his Latin captors. Yes, he somehow got captured. Don't ask me how. The man was just incompetent. Angelos gave Michael some very much needed legitimacy, then set off to his spiritual son Khosrau's realm in 1210, while Michael got down to conquering Thessaly. The Sultan received Angelos and demanded for him to be recognized as the true Vasiliev by Laskaris, who refused. Thus, war broke out. In 1211, Laskaris met Khosrau and Angelos at the Battle of Antioch on the Meander with only 2,000 men, and he won, remarkably, against the more numerous Turks. Khosrau almost had the day, but his fatal mistake was to seek out the valiant Laskaris, who beheaded him in single combat and routed the Turks. The Nicaeans were battered, but gained much prestige, ended the Turkish threat, and Angelos died in obscurity. However, the heavy losses caused Laskaris to lose the Battle of Ringdakos to Henry, who advanced as far as Nymphaeon, but either in 1212 or 1214, the Treaty of Nymphaeon was signed between Constantinople and Nicaea, limiting the Latin Empire's Asian possessions to just Mysia, and they withdrew their support for Trebizond, as David would have died by now anyway. Trebizond's imperial dream was almost snuffed out. Meanwhile, Epirus was making progress on theirs. By 1212, they had Thessaly, and in 1213, Michael retook Dyrrhachion from Venice. In Constantinople, a Latin legate from the Pope doubled down hard on the Orthodox Church, causing many Romans to either flee to Nicaea or threaten to do so if Henry didn't allow them religious freedom, and Henry capitulated at last. Laskaris received the refugees and made marriage alliances. For himself, he married Philippa of Armenia to obtain closer ties with Cilicia, and his daughter Irene married Andronikos Palaiologos, who he made his successor. But this man soon died of an STD, and Irene remarried years later to Ioannis Doukas Vatasis, the future great emperor and saint. 1214 is where we end the narrative today. The new Sultan of Rome, Alexios, invaded Trebizond and laid siege to Sinope. Without his energetic brother David to defend the city, Alexios rushed west, but he was captured by the Turks and this doomed the city. The Sinopeans stubbornly resisted and wouldn't surrender to get back their emperor, who they probably disliked for exiling David, the true ruler of Paphlagonia, but Alexios tortured Alexios publicly, moving them to give up at last. The most important Black Sea port city fell to the Turks, and Trebizond was a vassal of Rome for the rest of Alexios' reign. Thus, the first of the three successor states' attempt to reconquer Constantinople ended. Trebizond was the first of them to emerge and possessed advantages like their capital's immense wealth from being a major trading city. They had a shot of restoring the Roman Empire had David's rival been someone less competent than Laskaris. But now, the next most likely state to fulfill the restoration was Epirus. Trebizond was confined to Pontus and cut off from Nicaea and the other states, making them just a regional power, while Michael's aggressive expansion made Epirus more powerful by the day, though by late 1214 he was assassinated. This did not stop Epirus's rapid rise, as his half-brother, Theodoros Komnenos became the greatest conqueror Epirus saw, and even took the title of emperor, putting him seriously at odds with the Latins, Bulgarians, and Nicaea. But the hot-headed Epirot emperor would also fall just as quickly after underestimating Bulgaria. So next time, cheer for Nicaea, as we'll cover the reign of one of the greatest Roman emperors, Ioannis III Dukas Vatatzis, and the eventual reconquest of Constantinople. There's so much intrigue and wars, but the story pace will be much faster than the first few years, as now we have set up all the players. You may have noticed how several times I wasn't sure about the dates, as historians could not always reach a consensus either on dating. I went with what I think is most logical. It won't get much better next time, but then again, expect little certainty post-1204. Well, that's it for me. I hope to see you all soon with the conclusion to the Roman exile story. Thanks for watching.